अंकुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः माया कल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतम् मायावेव विजृम्भयत्यपि महा योगेव यत्स्वेच्छया तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये यस्यैव स्फुरणं तदात्मकम् असत्कल्पार्थकं भासते साक्षात् तत्त्वमतीति वेदवचसा यो बोधयत्याश्रिता यत्साक्षात्करणात् भवेत् न पुनरावृत्तिर्भवाम्भोनिधौ तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नानाछिद्रघटोदरस्थितमः दीपप्रभाभास्वरम् ज्ञानं यस्य तु चक्षुरादिकरणद्वारावहिस्पन्दते जानामीति तमैव भङ्गम् अनुभाव्येतत् समस्तं जगत् तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये देहं प्राणमपीन्द्रियाण्यपि चलाम् बुद्धिं च शून्यं विदुः स्त्रीबालाङ्गजडोपमा स्वामिति भ्रान्तादृशं वादिनः मायाशक्तिविलासकल्पितमः व्यामोहसंहारिणे तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये राहुग्रस्तदिवाकरेन्दुसदृशः मायासमाच्छादना तन्मात्रकरणोपसंहरणतः योगो सुषुप्तः पुमान् प्रागस्वात्समिति प्रबोधसमये यः प्रत्यभिज्ञायते तस्मै श्री गुरुमूर्तये
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्तः गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। दुर्लभम त्रयम एव एतत्. These three things are very rare. And how does one acquire it? And if it is rare, definitely you will not be finding it in Walmart. Is there any super specialty store out there where we can go get all these three as a combo? It happens only because of Daiva Anugraha Hetukam, by the kripa of that Parameshwara. Manushyatvam mumukshutvam mahapurusha samshayaha. Being born as a human being, having an intense desire to liberate oneself from all limitations and the conditionings that are born thereof, and Mahapurusha Samshayaha, and somebody who is experienced enough to show us, guide us how to liberate oneself. When these three things intersect in our life, understand that that day is a day to celebrate. That day is the day when we have this immense opportunity of that Paramatma showering his grace completely and fully. And since we are all sitting here, all three of that are already profusely there with us always. That also was discussed yesterday. Now moving forward, in the fourth shloka, labdhvā kathacinnarajanma durlabhaṃ, labdhvā kathacinnarajanma tatrāpi puṃstvaṃ śrutipāradarśanam. yastvātmamuktau na yateta mūḍhadhīḥ, muktau na yateta mūḍhadhīḥ, hyātmahā svaṃ vinihantyasadgrahāt, mahāsvaṃ vinihantyasadgrahāt. To consider that now I am blessed, I have all these three things, immediately we should not jump to the conclusion leading us to a lethargic lifestyle that I am already blessed. The blessings and the showering of blessings is the starting point. What we end up doing with it, that is still a choice that we have to choose. It's not necessary that just because all of these three are there with that individual is now focused. See, many times when Puja Gurudev's yajna was being conducted, there were a lot of people that would come in, like say the PA system, sound system people, the stage people, the video recording people, the ground staff, those who keep it. Usually it used to be out there in the open, and there would be like 15,000-20,000 people sitting. So there will be people employed to take care of those grounds, especially during summer. It has to be maintained little cool, otherwise you will be like literally baked by the time you are done with the yajna, because the radiating heat from underneath and up outside also. So there's some people employed for it. So we see that there are some, they do their job and then resign. That somebody will come and speak, and I'll have to come back again at 8:30 to wind this all up. Until then, थोड़ा चाय पी के आता हूँ. Go out there and have a cup of tea or whatever. Not interested in this. But on the other hand, there are some, for them that becomes the very starting point. That particular project landed in their lap and they were employed for it to say do the video recording, and as they were doing the video recording, they got so interested in what was being taught. I know so many of them. I know one of our own Swamijis who was, of all the professions, he was a ambulance driver. And once in our ashram there was an emergency, in our hospital in the ashram there was an emergency, and they had to call for an ambulance, and he came in and he met a couple of these brahmacharis and swamis, and then he quit that job and joined the ashram as an ambulance driver. And then as he got acquainted with all these sadhus and sannyasis, he got very much inspired, dropped that job and joined the Vedanta course. I mean, his is like a miraculous story. That when the opportunity strikes, they feel that awakening and make use of that opportunity. So what should we do when we have these three things? Labdhvā kathacinnarajanma durlabhaṃ tatrāpi puṃstvaṃ śrutipāradarśanam. We have the human life, narajanma. Puṃstvaṃ, the mental capacity, tenacity that is required to pursue a spiritual path, that is also there. Śrutipāradarśanam, when they listen to the scriptures, they don't sleep. Once a person came to Guruji and he said, Swamiji, raat ko neend hi nahi aata. I don't feel sleepy. So Guruji immediately pulled out Ashtavakra Gita and said, read this every day. And after a week, he came back to report, whatever is in that book, Swamiji, I'm sleeping a good sleep these days. Śrutipāradarśanam, that the Shruti, when they listen to it, it inspires. And that inspiration happens not just when we are listening to the words, but to that which these words are pointing towards. That understanding comes into picture. śrutipāradarśanam. And if that individual having all these capacities as a reality in their life, yahatu ātmahā, for realizing one's own true nature, finding liberation from all limitations and conditionings. If that individual is not focused on that as the priority of life, usually Adi Shankaracharya ji is not that very aggressive. He just states facts. A couple of places he really shows it. He says, such person, na yateta, does not make use of this opportunity, golden opportunity. He says, mūḍhadhīḥ, such person truly is mūḍha. Mūḍha, a fool. Now, it should not be interpreted that somebody who does a mistake is called a mūḍha. It's pretty natural that being a human, we tend to make mistakes. It's human to err. Including myself sitting here, do we ever claim that I have never ever done a single mistake in my life? That's the biggest mistake, biggest lie. We have committed our own set of mistakes. But who is a mūḍha? Mūḍha is not a one who does a mistake. Mūḍha is that person, fool is that person who repeats the same mistake again and again with invigorated enthusiasm, expecting a different result every single time. Such one is called mūḍha. To make mistakes is not a big crime. You learn through it and grow out of it and find the right path. But doing the same mistake again and again, expecting a different result, not finding that result, finding that disappointing, such one is called, Adi Shankaracharya ji is very benevolent. He just said that person has a foolish mind. I would say that person is mūḍhashiromani, mūḍhottama. These kids share these jokes. So one of such jokes, there was an American, a French guy, and an Indian. Usually, you know on which category of people these jokes are. So they all used to work on a high-rise building, and they were employed for their specific skills. They were the skyscrapers that were being built. So they were employed. Every day, meticulously at lunchtime, they would all open their lunch, and the American would have a burger. The French guy would have, it's actually dosa, but they call it crepe. So he used to have his crepes, and the Indian used to have batata sandwich every single day. So by the second week, the American started showing frustration that, I keep telling her to change my lunch, give me some variety, and this is getting frustrated. And if she repeats it, I'm going to jump off this building. It's not worthy to live such life wherein you can't even have a change in your lunch. And the French guy immediately says, I also agree. I'm all frustrated with this crepes day in and day out. There should be some change, variety in life. The Indian guy also said, yes, yes, I also agree. What, same sandwich daily? So the next day they come, they open their lunch boxes and they find the same thing repeated again. And the top, all three. So the lady comes, the American lady comes and said, he was threatening me, but I didn't think that he was this serious about it. The French guy, his wife also came in and said, I didn't expect him also to be this, very particular or serious about it. It was not something of a great thing that he should, quit living. The Indian guy, his friend, roommate came and said, and he was laughing. I said, why are you laughing? Then it said death. He said, he was not married and he used to make his own lunch every day. That is exactly how we are. Every single day, the same kind of pattern repetitively keeps happening, and we look at God-wordly, heavenly intervention. Oh God, do something! And God must be sitting there thinking, I've given you buddhi, use it. That's one of the best phrases in Bhagavad Gita that I love. Yes, Bhagavan says that those who devote and surrender unto me, I bless them and give the boon. And what is the boon? Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. I bless them with buddhi yoga. What do you mean by buddhi yoga? The simple meaning to understand buddhi yoga is that there is buddhi. Yoga means to join, to connect. But we are disconnected with that buddhi. There's a short circuit. That I'll reconnect that individual to their own sharp higher self called buddhi. And these are the people who are actually committing yatmahā. Yatmahā, atmahatya. Atmahatya is not, according to this definition here by Adi Shankaracharya ji, Atmahatya is not when you quit living in this body. Atmahatya is when you have all these three ingredients aligned and we do not focus for that higher and miss on that opportunity. Such person is actually committing a suicide. Vinihantyasadgrahāt. Even though listening to the right advice does not implement it to evolve in life. Gurudev used to say, narrate a story. On a big banyan tree, there was this huge flock of parrots that used to live. The older parrots had a PSA, a very elite organization of parrots, PSA, Parrot Security Agency. And they would have all these young ones assembled at least once a day, mandatory. And they would explain the perils of the outside world and how, if even for a moment they lose sight of or lose their focus, how they can be caught, how they can be sold, or something bad can happen to them. So they would say, when you are flying through this forest, and so many times this has been repeated that there was no variety, modulation, nothing, the same message again and again and again given, that the younger ones would look at each other and start mouthing it, mimicking them and teasing them. It was already memorized that when you fly through this forest, you see an open area and in that open area you find unusual presence of grains. Do not swoop down, sit there and start eating them. There could be a net and there could be a hunter who would be waiting for you, catch you, take you and sell you. Then you are doomed. These people had memorized it every single day, like a samuhik mantra chanting. Om Namah Shivaya. So similarly, the parrot security agency would make them all repeat this. And these young parrots, they flew out into the forest while mimicking the older ones, and they saw open patch, and they saw unusual presence of grain. And while mimicking and teasing the other fellows, look, they were teasing them and sat down there and started picking on those grains and eating them. The hunter came, caught them, and while they were being captured, they were still repeating the mantra. We also do the same thing. How many of us have not heard Bhaja Govinda? Everyone has heard it, right? The message of it is so powerful that if we understand the meaning, that our antennas should go up. But then, instead of the antennas going up, early in the morning, poor MS Subbalakshmi is pressed into action and she starts off, Bhaja Govindam. And you also start humming along. And then exactly do what Adi Shankaracharya ji has advised there not to do. Sahi Atmaha, such person truly, verily is the one who is committing a big blunder. Let me present this in a different way. We all keep asking, what is the purpose of life? So some say to find your passion and fulfill your passion. Uske baad, okay, you found your passion, you have accomplished it. Then I'll cross the bridge when I get there. To find accomplishments, successes, and various other endeavors, yes, you will accomplish it. Then what? Each one of us, through various actions, we are all aiming for only two things in life, invariably. And this is one thing that is common across different genders, different nationality, different theologies, different religions. Whatever that we are following, these two have to be the most common thing. That we look forward and work for gaining happiness and to remove misery. However dumb that individual be, the effort nonetheless has always been to find happiness. Through what? Through assets, through name, through fame, through accomplishments, through successes. One of the earlier presidents, one of the most able presidents of India, there have been so many, was Abdul Kalam. He became president, and on the national network, there was an interview. So he was asked, I mean, in every which way, your life is filled with so many accomplishments. You are one of the ace scientists. You, under your belt, there have been so many projects that you have fulfilled. And now you are the first person of this country, the president of this country. What else anybody can ask? You must be the most happiest and the most successful person. Your opinion. So he said, one aspect of what you said, I completely agree with, that my life has been successful. With regards to happiness, I'm still in search of it. And that lady who was interviewing him laughed it out, and it was a very powerful statement, and it was like a curveball for the interviewer, and she laughed it out and then went to the next question without pursuing us to asking, what, you have accomplished so much and still not happy? What else do you want to accomplish, or what is it that you define as happiness? Nothing like that. She just brushed it aside and went on to ask her formatted questions. But that was a very profound statement made. That we often climb the ladder of success. Having reached onto the top, we realize that that ladder was on the wrong side of the wall. Now, by then it is too late. That is when I teasingly say BLNL. Better luck next life. ये left हो गया और था. So continuing on the same trait, same thought. Definitely Adi Shankaracharya must have been feeling very strongly about it to continue it into the third shloka. He says, itaḥ nvasti mūḍhātmā yastu svārthe pramādyati durlabhaṃ manusham deham prāpya tatrāpi paurusham. itaḥ kaha anu asti mūḍhātmā. Who else can be the greatest fool other than such individual? While growing up, there were these jokes, heights of, such and such. So one such funny one was heights of stupidity. So the punchline there was, heights of stupidity is when somebody is peeping through the keyhole of a glass door. And in Adi Shankaracharya's language, he says, this beats that. Yaha tu svārthe pramādyati. Pramāda. In the Upanishad, they say, pramādo vai mrityuhu. Committing the same mistake second time in itself is mrityu. Let me ask a simple question, something tangible. You all have driven from your house to Saket? Yes? Okay, good. From point A to point B that you have driven. If you are taking a tollway or if you are taking a highway, how many times is it okay for you to miss the exit to Saket? How many times? Once, twice, thrice. Once is okay. Twice is what? Bearable. What to talk of that person who has continuously every single day sees that exit pass by and says, I missed it again, and goes further, takes a U-turn and comes back. Sometimes these U-turns are very costly. I'm talking about 8 years ago, more than 8 years ago, when the GPS systems, or those little mobile handy ones, were just released into the market. I used to visit all these different states, and we Indians have settled in this country in almost all God-forsaken corners. And if there are 10-15 Indian families, they would find a Swamiji and say, Swamiji, satsang karne aaoge? Once in North Dakota, and having come straight to Texas, the mindset was spoiled, ruined. Until then, I did not realize that US roads will also have potholes. That US roads will also be narrow. They call it a national highway, but it is just one road up, one road down. One lane up, one lane down. And God forbid if you are behind a farmer Joe. Ho gaya kalyan. So they said, Swamiji, it is about 3.5 hours from the nearest airport. We will take care of everything, every expense. Can you also book, along with your flight, can you also book a car? I said, okay. So I booked the car, got down, got the car, got in, and started driving. And those GPS, they had, they were not, fully equipped, I would say. Even to say take a U-turn, they will say take a left, then take a left, then take a left. Seedha bol the U-turn. They're a little primitive in that way. By the time my GPS calibrated and said that this is the exit that you have to take, I was seeing the exit pass by. And coming from Texas, where the exits are for every mile, I said, okay, next exit. And it was rerouting, and it kept calculating, and it kept moving on. And the worst thing was that the other lane going on the other side, I could see it. It was right there. If it were in India, तो एकदम gotten across. There were many times that thought came across in my head. But there was a kind of a ditch, like the trench. If there is water, it was impossible that you could go in that car from in that way. So biting my tongue and seeing that road aside and there is no exit. 35 miles up, find an exit, another 35 miles down, you come back. It's not even like you can use the hypotenuse and find another road. And they're all new roads, and my gut feeling was a known devil is better than unknown God. God knows where that other road will take me. So again, bite the bullet and come back 70 miles. Sometimes that is what happens to us in our life. That at a right opportune moment, that we find that person who can teach, who can work with us and guide us to a next level. And then what do? after I finish all this, then I'll come back. By then, you've already missed the exit. And you're going on and on and on. And such opportunity Bhagavan always gives. itaḥ kaha anu asti yaha svārthe pramādyati. Makes that mistake once and you have lost the opportunity. Durlabhaṃ manusham deham prapya tatrāpi paurusham. You've gotten that human form because only in the human form of the 8.4 million species that we have the capacity to find liberation. Even those which are subtler than all these creatures, those who are in the heavens, all the devas, different positions that they are working in, even they do not have the opportunity to find that moksha. If they have to find moksha, they have to come back as in this world and find the human birth, and that is where you have moksha. Already we are there. See, Kathopanishad, there are many subtler points. In one particular interaction between Lord Yamadharmaraja and Nachiketa, Nachiketa relentlessly focuses, saying, give me only that which I have asked as my third boon. I am not interested in any other thing. So feeling very proud at this kid, Yamadharmaraja says, confesses to Nachiketa saying, at your age, I did not have this clarity. I thought finding a position of accomplishment was the purpose of life. And now I am stuck being Yama for the rest of the creation. Wish I had that clarity which you are holding. I would have already been mukta. And now in this body I cannot even find that moksha because it can be only acquired in a human form. Are we already human? Don't give me that. We are already there, right? There's no confusion, ambiguity. We already have the opportunity to understand through the scriptures. Paurusham eva. Paurusham, that mental tenacity is also there. It is not like you are sitting there and pata nahi kya bol rahe hain, atma, moksha. I come to this kinds of bhajan only for bhojan. Prasad bhakti. Here there is not even any prasad. We can offer one person as prasad. Not to eat, his name is prasad. And then there are those. Continuing, he says, how we get entrapped. He says, those who take to the path of spirituality as well, not retaining the focal point and the purposefulness of getting into spiritual path, how they get lost. That is said, he says, vadantu shastrani yajantu devan. Shastrani yajantu devan. Kurvantu karmani bhajantu devataha. Atmaikya bodhena vinapi muktihi. Bodhena vinapi mukti. Na siddhyati brahma shatantarepi. Siddhyati brahma shatantarepi. How do we get trapped? See, in today's world, when even spirituality has become a business module, wherein the focus is on how you market it. Starting from how the flyer should look like. What are the color combinations? What should be the font? How should the photograph be projected? How should the stage be? How should the lighting on the stage be? How should that ambience be created? So I tell people when they ask, Swamiji, there is this new person, some spiritual awakening that they are promising. Can I go to that program? So sure, it's your choice. You can always. No, but I'm asking your opinion. So please go. No, don't tell like that. I'm asking, how much does it cost? Because the flyer was quite funny. Flyer promised, attend a 3-day session, wherein in the presence of that Mahatma, wherein he is so evolved that you don't need to put any effort. Just being in that presence of that Mahatma, you will become mukta. And there are enough of us despondent who are ready to jump into such field. Where Bhagavan Krishna in Bhagavad Gita has very clearly said that there can be 100,000 people who may find that spiritual path as an awakening. Of those, there may be only handful of them who will really pursue. Of those handful, there may be 1 or 2 who really reach. Because it is that difficult a path. And if somebody is making it look like a piece of cake, where you just sit in the presence of that Mahatma and you'll be uplifted. And how much was it? It was about $10,000. So I said, you will definitely be mukta after 3 days. What will you find as mukti? You will be mukta of your $10,000. Vadantu shastrani. Imagine how sharp a critique that Adi Shankaracharya is. That the first stroke where he has to mention who did he hit first in the so-called path of spirituality, taking the path of spirituality. All those who can end up making path of spirituality as a business. And this is not something which is happening today. It is even in his times. Vadantu shastrani. And misuse of the spiritual path to mess around with people has always happened since ages. And probably that is why when they see sannyasis, and this happened in Bangalore. I was flying out from Bangalore to come back to US. And usually the flights are in weird timings coming back from India. So tired, checked in everything, sitting in my chair after a long line and everything. So the people are still assembling. And at opposite chairs, there were these cute little girl and her mother, and the mother was trying to feed that kid. And the mother said something, in my ears really popped up and my antenna went up. And she shows me sitting right across. And she says, "Beta kha le. वरना वो ऑरेंज बाबा जी तुझे उठा के ले जाएंगे." Eat up quickly, otherwise that fellow in that orange will abduct you. So I allowed that mother feed that kid, and once she already fed, then went sat right next to her. And I said, "Amma, what wrong did I do to you? I know you wanted to feed your child, but in that effort to feed that child, you made me the villain. That whenever that child is again going to see any orange color, not just me, what is the impression that that kid will have? And what should I complain about her? Because this path was used to do people right since the Ramayana Kala. What did Ravana wear when he wanted to abduct Sita ji? He wear the sannyasi clothes. Using the path of spirituality as a mode of business, as a path to fool people, as to use it for functioning on the shraddha of the individuals, to make that as a living. Vadantu shastrani. There are many amazing speakers. But where is their life? Stuck in promoting. See, many times people give advice. They say, "Swamiji, you should start writing books. Especially for the youth, you connect with them and your language to them really is appealing. You should write books." I can only speak. If you want to transcribe and print them as books, I'll work with you. But don't ask me to write books. Why? Then it will start becoming a market. That instead of speaking, in every speech or every occasion, please buy my books. Vadantu shastrani. People, sometimes I take people to yatra. And the perspective is that to have the best of the spiritual experience. Recently somebody again suggested saying, "Swami, we should take a trip to Hawaii." Yeah, मैं travel agent लगता हूँ यार. There are many of you who can slip that. Vadantu Shastra, and he used that platform for self-projection. Vadantu Shastrani. Yajantu Devan. Do elaborate puja every single day. Early in the morning, wake up, do puja also. Kurvantu karmani. Lot of projects to dig wells, to plant trees, to lay roads and help and put your name on the bhajantu devataha. Sing glories of the Lord. But where is the mind? The mind is doing all these spiritual practices Earlier, prior to this, the mind was trying to find its own grip to feed the ego from inside through the various other activities. Now that mind has now found a newer avenue. Long time ago, about 20 years ago, since then whenever I go to Rishikesh, Haridwar, just to remind myself of the path that I have vowed myself to, I sit along, there is this langar, where all the sadhus are fed, bhiksha. So I make sure that I, go and stand in line and sit there and they serve. One day I was sitting and I was between two dandi swamis. Dandi swami, those who carry the danda. One was dvidandi, the other was tridandi. One was carrying 3 danda and the other one was carrying 2. And I was amused that if I were to carry a danda, I would be the ekadanda. So Advaita, Vishishta Advaita and Dvaita, all 3 in one line. An amazing combination. I was amusing myself inside. So the person here from that side speaking to each other, they know each other probably. So I even offered, do you want to? I said, no, aap baith here. And then through me, they were having a discussion. So this person said, I have not seen you in a while. How have you been? And this pleasant is exchanged. And then he said, मेरे 7 माला हो गए, आपके कितने? I have done 7 malas. How many have you? So he said, मेरा तो तीसरा चल रहा है. Mine 3rd mala. So I was like very much itched to ask, but it was not my time or place to jump in and ask. But it was bothering me. That one mala has 108 beads. So this person was claiming that he had done 7 malas, 7 times 108, big deal. And the other person very apologetically was saying that I have done only 3 malas, 3 times 108. Something was not sitting right with it. So I went back to my Acharya and I said, they were discussing like this, what did they mean? So he was laughing and I said that the person who said 7 malas, he has done so much japa that the mala has worn out, that it was his 7th one running. And the other one apologetically was saying, my only 3rd, meaning it is not that worn out. The point that I am trying to make is, the purpose of invoking all these processes, to be in a satsang, to worship Bhagavan, to chant the name of the Lord, to do different kinds of seva activities, is not to get associated with it with the pride of having done something spectacular. Is to remove that pride, to remove that ego. That should be the focus. But instead it would be the very point of boastfulness. Oh, I am not like the rest of them. I go to satsang, I do everyday puja. What do you know? Well, I also do what? You do 15-minute puja, I do 3-hour puja. Every Friday we have bhajans at home. What do you know? Jumme ke jumme. In Urdu, Jumma is the Friday evening when they have the special congregational prayers, which they are supposed to go to the mosque. So I also have, every Friday we have Devi bhajans at home. Every month during the Ekadashi or Dvashi, we have Satyanarayan Katha. No, that is not for boasting it as something, as an achievement. All these are supposed to mellow that ego down and annihilate it. Therefore, one of the primary things that is said is, whatever sadhana that you do, do not share it with anyone. Why? Because the ego will start feeding off of that spiritual process which is supposed to annihilate it. It's nothing to keep as a secret. It is just as a protective measure to that seeker, that they not get carried away by their own effort to grow in path of spirituality. All these efforts, no doubt, are purifiers. But if the focus is not on mukti, and if these become just a process of feel-good factors, that I have a to-do list, that early morning I wake up, I have this checkbox and finish these things. That part of your spiritual life has to be gupta, nikshipta. And nobody needs to know. And let's see it in a hilarious way. What do all these processes do? They clean the buddhi, mana and the soul from inside. These are all cleansing processes. Do you go out there and boast? Pata hai, roz 2 baar nahata hu main. I take shower twice a day. I brush my teeth also twice a day. Do you ever boast about these things? Maybe when you are in kindergarten or first grade, wherein you are still learning those processes, and then you end up saying to your friends, I take shower twice. The cleansing process, then what is there to boast about it? Every day before and after eating food, I wash my hand. Big deal, man. Get over yourself. These are processes to clean yourself, not to boast about it. Similarly, are these other spiritual processes? They are subtler processes of cleansing. It has never to be a comparative analysis that I am doing it, how much are you doing? Each one for their own. Atmaikya bodhena vina muktihi na siddhyati. If that focal point is not finding oneness with the core of our own being, as much as people are lost in the worldliness, even in the path of so-called acclaimed path of spirituality, there are enough who have lost their focus. Quite an enticing field. When the moment you do certain kinds of things, there are enough people around who are ready to put you on a pedestal. अरे नहीं, आप तो इतना शास्त्र पढ़ते हो, you read so much of scriptures, you are greater than. No, you do so much of puja, you are great. And when 10 people like that around start speaking, I must be really great, And then that becomes the feeder for the ego. That should not be the purpose, that should not be the focus. Otherwise, though you may be listening to or delivering satsanga, vadantu shastrani, though you may be worshipping that deva daily, though we may be doing different kinds of seva or chanting the name of the Lord, still mukti will be quite strange and far. In Adi Shankaracharya's words, he says, Brahma Shatantarepi. Brahma Shatantara, just to give you a feel of, we have 24 hours in a day, 365 days a year, right? In the Devaloka, our 365 days is there one day. And there are many steps in between. I'm just cutting short all of those steps and saying that with that perspective, with the Devaloka perspective, when you compare it with Brahma, the creator, the Devaloka's 1 year is Brahma's 1 day. And thus day and night he lives for 100 years. Which just translates into few millions of our years. Brahma Shatantar. Hundreds of such Brahma cycles go by, and we are still doing these processes. Mukti will not be guaranteed unless that alone is the focal point. That why am I reading the scriptures? To find that mukti. Why am I doing my japa? To find that mukti. Not to bloat this ego, not to become associated with it, to brag about it. Brahma Shatantarepi. Continuing. See, right in the beginning, all the pitfalls are being talked about just so that we are that careful, that we don't lose sight of what we are entering into. You know, in the Himalayan ranges, they have quite good sense of humor when they post things to warn the drivers. One such is Nazar Hati, Durghatna Ghati. The moment you lose sight, you lose your focus, that is the very moment that there is an accident. And in those ranges, if there is an accident, yadgatvā nanivartante, you slip and fall. Was it one of the batches that I had taken from here to Chardham Yatra? I think it happened that we finally convinced a bus driver to take to this very beautiful place called Triyugi Narayan. Just before going to visit Kedarnath, near Sonprayag, there is a Triyugi Narayan. So, not advertising about the perils of that particular stretch of journey, just to change their focus, I was suggesting them to see the Himalayan ranges. But one of these ammas who was sitting at the window suddenly peeked downward, unavoidable, and suddenly, in a very shrill voice, shrieked out, "Oh my God!" The roads are so narrow that it is just sufficient for those 4 tires to be in. The rest of the body of that bus is literally hanging in the valley. And through that glass door, when you peek, it's like hundreds of feet down there. You're not even the driver, you're just sitting there comfortably in a chair. Imagine in those such roads, if the driver's focus varies and moves away, what happens? Therefore, the sign says, Nazar Hati, Durghatna Ghati. The moment you lose sight of focus Accidents happen. Continuing, he says, amrtatvasya nashasti vittenetyeva hi śrutihi braviti karmano muktehe ahetutvam sputam yataḥ. This is relating to one of the famous mantras that we chant quite often, at least very familiarized one within the Chinmaya fold. Na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyagenaike amrutatvamanashuhu parena nakam nihitam guhayam vibhrajate yadyatayo vishanti. And that also we chant sometimes. We have learnt over a period when we don't focus on it. Many times I hear it and I end up laughing to correct it. What I hear is, na karmana na prajaya dhane na tyage naike amrutatvamanashuhu. The whole meaning changes. The way sometimes we inadvertently read or chant, what it means is, na karmana na prajaya dhane na tyage naike amrutatvamanashuhu. This is a wrong way of chanting. So what does it mean? The actual meaning of it is amrutatvam, immortality, moksha, na karmana, na prajaya, na dhanena. Neither by actions, nor by progeny, nor by wealth, dhana. Only by tyaga that immortality can be found. But the way we sometimes inadvertently chant, the meaning becomes na karmana na prajaya. Not by karma, not by action, nor by praja, progeny. And we break it or stop at a wrong spot. It should have been dhanena, but instead we stop at dhane. Na karma, na tyagena. So what does the meaning become? That immortality cannot be found through karma, through praja, or by tyaga. Dhane eva. In wealth alone you can find that immortality. So I wonder that sometimes in the heights of capitalism, that we end up chanting also in the same spirit. Isn't it? Dhane eva. So that mantra is taken here as a reference. So he's saying, amrtatvasya na asha asti. Vittena iti eva hi śrutihi. That amrutatva cannot be ascertained, that immortality cannot be gained through wealth or by progeny or by karma. So what does it mean? That you cannot purchase moksha. If it were a sellable commodity, it would have been already produced by China and you would have had tons of it, varieties of it in Walmart. It is not something that can be purchased. First. Second, to find that immortality through progeny. Whether I live or not, my name will remain. That is also a sham, which we can evaluate right now. Don't consider my questions as silly questions. Try to answer them. Do you know your parents' name? Yes? Okay, good. Do you know your grandparents on both sides? Their names? Yes? So that becomes 4 people now. Do you know the great grandparents? 8 of them. At least 2 of the 8. So if you are doing śrādha, then at least we should be knowing those until great grandfathers, great grandparents. Do you know their parents? Yes, no? You know. Okay. One among many. Within our own family, the so-called name and fame, by the 3rd generation, we are already forgotten. My children will invariably have to remember me. My grandchildren may remember. My great-grandchildren, tha koi? There was one fellow sometime there, beyond which there is no memory of us. And to find that immortality through name and fame is also not a possibility. The next one is, the most important one is to understand karma. Invariably, when we go out there to work, what is it that we are seeking? That I'm putting these sets of actions so that I can be happy. Right? Yes, no. Right? All of us put action so that I anticipate happiness. Or the flip side of it is, I put action knowingly not asking for any kind of miseries. Do we ever plan to get miserable? Ever? So this small kid, he goes to his father and he says, Dad, I am trying to plan for my life. How much does marriage cost? So that I can budget myself well. So he says, son, I can't answer you that because yes, I have gotten married, but how much I can't tell you because I'm still paying for it. So the son says, so what should I put in there? What should I write for it? Give me a sentence so that I can write. So you don't need a sentence. Marriage itself is a sentence, he says. And usually this is what I jokingly tell the Yuva Kendra members, or even the adults, when there are 2 kinds of people in this world. Those who are happy and those who are married. Don't give me that look. Kya Swamiji? whenever we put effort, do we ever program ourselves in such a way, modulate ourselves in such a way that through this action I am planning to be miserable? Never ever. All our actions are geared towards finding that happiness. Please write it down in bold letters, in red ink, in parenthesis. If you are a calligraphy writer, in a different font, etch it into your heart. Through actions, happiness cannot be found. Through the field of actions, happiness cannot be, will not be, shall not be found. Let us put all the scriptural study and everything aside. Let us just take a practical day-to-day, whatever we have experienced so far as an example, our own life as an example. Right since the day that I can remember the first time I did something for myself. What is your earliest memory? I remember my third year, or probably third year. 3-4 years you must have been when you started remembering things, doing things. Yes, no? Maybe 5. Okay, 5. Since then up until now, how many kinds of actions, how many varieties of actions that we must have performed? We have been continuously, incessantly performing actions. Has there been a moment in our life wherein a certain action has yielded unending source of continuous happiness ever? Let us not focus on scriptures as a proof. Our own life is proof. Is there a single action that I have found through which guaranteed is my happiness? Ever. Our own life is a solid proof for it. I know there will be a couple of them who will ask this question. So it seems very impractical. If you already have that happiness, then the whole the world will become chaotic. Why would anybody work then? Not the absolute happiness, but even those small little joys that we get when we come across those moments of joy. Do we ever sit in a dark corner and somebody comes and asks, hey, kya hua? I'm very happy. Ever. Don't we want to go out there, share our happiness with everyone? And the one who finds this happiness would not be the one sitting in a corner. He would be the one jumping out into the world, not to work for happiness, but work with happiness to give that happiness to everyone. And such people are the inspiration to watch. Such people are the ones that we can put in the category that when they come into our life, they bring happiness. There are two kinds of people that give us happiness. Those who come and give us happiness, those who go and give us happiness. Which variety do we want to belong to? Those who come to give or those who go? So once Gurudev, these are some funny moments with him, that he got this information, not from that family, but somebody mentioned it in his letter. So he said, read. So I read through. So the last paragraph mentions about, that person in that city who lost someone. How would you respond to that? So I said, I'm so sorry to hear that you have lost your near ones, dear ones, beloved ones. And I can feel the sorrow and misery that you are going through. So Gurudev said, stop. How do you know that they will be miserable? They could be happy also. Bhala chudi hai. Good riddance. So far we have been with the conviction, intellectual conviction, that my happiness is out there in the world and I have to find it one way or the other. My happiness is in that kind of job, in this kind of profession, in this kind of passion, in this kind of hobby, with these kinds of people. And sometimes with the people I did not find that happiness, therefore, talak, 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 another one. We did not find it, another talak, another one, another one. There was a guy who used to come fix electrical work. So he said, Mr. Swami, I am really troubled. So I said, that makes two of us, but what is your trouble? I said, holiday season is coming, man. I said, that should be the joyous moments, right? I said, no. With whatever I make, I have to send gifts and alimony to 3 earlier wives, and we have had 6 or 7 kids through I have 6 kids, and now the 4th one, and I have 3 kids of mine and 2 of hers. And this is like a Mahabharata family lineage. The one person's salary has to buy gifts for about 15 people. I don't know how I'm going to meet my ends. I was like thinking in my head, एक बार हुआ समझ सकता हूँ, 4 बार, 4 times and still not awakened. न कर्मा, न प्रजया, न धनेन, अमृतत्वस्य आशा अस्ति. Asha, hope. We cannot even hope for amritatva, that supreme state of happiness, through any one of these, especially through karma. So what does it indicate? That my happiness is independent of the actions I perform, the environments that I exist in, the number of people that I interact with. It has got nothing to do with it. So first thing to understand is I cannot blame anyone or anything in my vicinity or surrounding as the cause of my lack of happiness. But I cannot blame the world saying, I am not happy because of you. Because our happiness is not dependable variable on them. That if we are a true student of Vedanta, should not blame the world ever again. That my happiness was ruined because of this person, this environment, this interaction, this vastu. because it is independent of it. Second, that I should not feel disappointed when I do not find that happiness because I am looking for it in the wrong place. Now, even if we intellectually grasp this concept, when I go out and work in the world, I have protected myself from two different layers. One, disappointment, and the second one is being or feeling miserable. It is purely swajanita. If I am miserable, it is created by my own wrong perspective or conditioning. The outside world can only enhance that misery, but cannot give happiness. Na ashasti. Then where do we find it? That Adi Shankaracharya says in the 8th shloka. We will see it tomorrow. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.